There are a number of things you can do to build a sense of community with your students in a digital classroom. So we're going to talk about those different elements. So getting started at the beginning of the year, one of the great things you can do is share a welcome video, post something that helps them feel engaged and welcomed and a sense of I belong to this community. Be sure to post an introductory welcoming them to the learning environment and helping them navigate the learning environment. And then throughout the year, those Teams calls will be super important to connect and interact with your students. Have a Get Social channel where kids can share different things. You can moderate it, of course, but allow them to connect with each other and bond in different ways. Flipgrid is a great way to build a community, having them have conversations with one another. They post a video and then students respond to that video and having those conversations. And then OneNote Class Notebook allows for collaboration. So it's a great way for them to work together on projects and interact with one another through research and planning and building their project in the notebook. Two resources that are helpful in the discussion regarding building an online community are Small Teaching Online and UDL in the Cloud. Small Teaching Online is focused on higher ed, but there's a lot that you can glean from it that's applicable to secondary ed as well. And then UDL in the Cloud has descriptions for many different ages. And so it's a great book to think about just that universal design for learning and how you can best meet the needs of your students. One of the key things that UDL in the Cloud notes is that on page 74, it notes that, mindset matters. So if we as instructors don't believe we can affect student learning in a virtual environment, then it decreases the feelings of efficacy, and in turn it impacts student achievement. And that impact, it impacts their student motivation and engagement. So in short, it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we feel we cannot make a virtual learning work, then we will most likely prove that to be true. If, however, we keep an open mind and know that we can work together and we can create a learning environment that has really positive impacts on student achievement, then that will be the result as well. Another key point that UDL in the Cloud points out is that connection matters in more ways than one. So may have heard of Lev Vygotsky and his study of zone of proximal development. And essentially he talks about how a sense of community plays a very essential role in learning. And to quote him, he says, "Learning awakens a variety of internal development processes that are able to operate only when the student is interacting with people in his environment and in cooperation with his peers." In short, students need the presence of their peers and a teacher to help them learn. And it's not just content for us to get that information. They really need to be collaborating. So a student may be able to complete a certain type of math problem, but nothing beyond that. And then the problem that's just beyond their reach is one that they would be able to achieve when they work with someone else in a social context who has more experience, such as the teacher, of course, but also a peer who understands the concept a little bit more than they do. So in other words, it's an essential part of students' movement and progress from one type of problem to another is her observations of those around her, her collaboration with them on task and even play, and her imitation of those who have already mastered the problem that she hasn't learned yet. And once she's done that, then she can move to that problem, and now she has a new zone of proximal development because she has a new goal to achieve. So essentially that connection and learning from each other is really important. And finding ways to create that will be really helpful for your students. So the books also talk about, there's 3 elements or presence that are elements of effectiveness of an educational experience. And the first one is cognitive presence, so which depends on learners engaging in activities like reflecting deeply on the course content, drawing new and creative connections with course material, or opening themselves up to new ideas and ways of understanding. And then the next one is social presence, where there's an emotional expression, open communication, and group cohesion. And then teaching presence, where of course this can occur through the design of your lessons and the facilitation of the learning, where students know that you're present and there for them. So in short, the key is connection with our students and the students with each other. Student-to-student interaction helps create new learning. It's not enough for students to work with your content. It's not even enough for them to work with you. They must work with each other to learn and succeed in our online classes. And so that's the key, is thinking about the different ways that you can work together, small groups that you can place students in, projects that they can work on together, interactions with Flipgrid and different things that they can do where they are connecting with one another and with you to increase their progress. So, in short, when you're thinking about the principles of building community, you want to intentionally structure student-to-student interactions and design engaging and meaningful discussion forums. Consider creating small groups for students to have conversations about the concepts you are teaching. You also want to incorporate frequent presence and ongoing support from you, of course. Be sure to participate in the discussions you post by commenting or answering questions that arise, and or asking follow-up questions from what students have shared. Of course, be personal, just like you are in your classroom. Share a bit of your life with them, and just connect in ways that work for you and your students. Find ways to keep students interacting with each other and throughout their online time. So even if you don't see them every day with a call, find ways for them to work together and support that social presence. And then finally, of course, just like in a traditional brick and mortar classroom, we need our students to know that we care. And so when you do that, your sense of community just expounds because they know that you care about them, and then they feel connected to you.